Ladies and gentlemen, the world's #1 sports and recreation podcast, Cheap Heat, is back on Tuesday, June 11th. I am your forever 24/7 champion coming to you from a beautiful New York City. My name is Peter Rosenberg. Also joining you, your champion of vacationing, the physically large Statguy Greg.
That's right. That's right. I'm looking into something right now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not gonna say where or what's going on until it's booked, but just know it's been a while since I've had a proper vacation. So,
In the words of the immortal Stained, it's been a while.
that's right.
Also joining us from New York, New York, it is 37 at 37 Dipperstein.
Hey now. Welcome to New York, the concrete jungle, the dreams.
I hear
right here.
I hear Bear the dog gave you quite a wake up this morning.
Yeah, I it's kind of like a sad thing to see. But this is the life that he's chosen.
Did you actually see him do what he did?
Well,
or he did it while you were turned
I
away?
didn't see the number 2, but I was sort of like relaxing on the couch, and I picked my head up, and there was number 1 happening, and it was pretty much done.
Leg lifted? What did he do?
No, leg not lifted.
He squatted and peed.
Yes. And then
Yeah.
he looked at me, he shrugged, and he walked away.
So now, was he marking his territory as saying like you're in my turf, or was he marking you as his territory?
No, neither.
Okay.
He's Bear. You remember the famous chicken wing incident? Of course, we all remember.
Yeah.
Bear is what you call a ravenous creature, and last night, my lovely bride at some point decided to snack on a Pop-Tart. And Natalie, what flavor Pop-Tart? What flavor Pop-Tart?
This is going to determine if I can support her move to have
brown sugar.
Okay. That's pretty like middle of the road, but I'm gonna allow it.
And she said she ate about 25% of it. And she set it down. She set it down in a place that she thought one Bear the dog couldn't get to it.
That was her first mistake.
And then I hear her yell out last night, "Oh no, Bear ate a Pop-Tart." And he had climbed the bed and stepped onto the nightstand to get the Pop-Tart. And what you saw this morning was the second of 3 bathroom incidents caused by the stomach problems, courtesy of old. I'm not a vet. I shouldn't speak on behalf of veterinarians. I don't think dogs are supposed to eat Pop-Tarts.
I don't think so. I don't think so either.
Actually, I'm not a doctor, but I think humans are not supposed to eat Pop-Tarts.
It's possible you're correct about that.
I think, unfortunately, Dip, what you saw was Bear was in a place now where, like, because it's all happening, the number 2's happening because the number 1's happening because the number 2's happening. There's just it's just all coming out. It's all. I did a lot of cleaning this morning. It wasn't what I was looking to do, but it's what happened. This is the life that I've chosen.
It was really the shrug after the urination. He put his both paws, front paws up, and he shrugged sort of like this. And
what do you want me to do?
And then he walked away and tried to get back into the room where you were doing the broadcast recording.
So yeah, that's how the morning started here. We hope everyone had a lovely weekend. Guys, just so you know, shout out to all the patrons, patreon.com/staymage. We did a Friday episode this past week, of course, which a lot of people tuned in to hear, and we appreciate you. We also recorded and are dropping this week the first installment of Saturday night's main event. We still haven't come up with the cute Cheap Heat name for a watch along, whether it's I'm trying to come up with something that rhymes with schmear, because like you could do it during a bagel, like perhaps.
Okay.
You have a thought?
I'll think about it.
Now, in Portuguese, to watch something is the verb is assistir. So it could be assistir and smear. Seems tough.
Yeah, we'll workshop it.
We're still workshopping. But anyways, we loved this Saturday Night's Main Event. We realized that none of us had watched it essentially in its entirety, and it was a treat. It was a fun watch. So here's what you get if you are an everything. If you're an everything bagel subscriber, you will get the audio version this weekend. If you are an egg everything, you will get the video version where you can literally just watch the entire thing with us. You'll see the video and see us. So that's all coming to you this weekend for our patrons over at Stay Mage.
If you can simulcast something or screen mirror something onto your TV, what a better way to spend your weekend.
Yeah,
think about it. Is there a better way to spend your weekend than with the three of us watching Saturday Night's Main Event on a big screen TV? Think about that.
Come on.
No.
I mean, you get to hear us talk about Iron Sheik's physicality. You get to we talk about how handsome Barry Windham was. I mean, these are the types of things.
Don't spoil it for the people. Don't spoil it for the people. Don't give them everything.
Right. Yeah, no. You got it. This is why you have to sign up. There's so much.
It's such a mage situation.
Yeah, and basically it's the full episode, so it's an hour-long episode that you're getting. Great time. We hope you'll check it out. Anyways, more wrestling happened this past weekend. There was a SmackDown and SGG. There was Raw as well. There's also news from outside the ring that's getting quite some chatter.
Yeah. So when we recorded last week, the big news from outside the ring was what's going to happen with Chad Gable, right? There was some speculation about his contract situation. I saw that people were saying that it was going to be up on June 7th, but lo and behold, he was there on Monday. He was granted a championship opportunity for Clash at the Castle. So presumably he's going to be around for a while. I think that contract situation was resolved. And just as they resolved that situation, news broke that Ricochet gave his notice to WWE. And there's speculation now that, hey, he might be on his way out. People are expecting him to land at AEW. And last night on Monday night, we saw that his situation did not look as optimistic as Chad Gable's in terms of staying with WWE because he was wrecked by Braun Breaker, driven away in an ambulance.
No, it's not what you want.
And that might be the last time we see Ricochet on WWE programming for quite some time.
What do you think? Given how unbelievably talented the guy is, what do you think never clicked with Ricochet? I mean, he clearly sort of belongs in AEW. The guy is one of these incredible in-ring performers that, puts on like a breathtaking match and can go for a really long time. His spots are amazing. And really, he's like, I'm sure Tony Khan's been salivating over this guy for years and years. But, he doesn't really know how to tell a great story. Also something that Tony Khan salivates over. And so he sort of feels like the perfect
I see. I don't see it. I don't see it.
I can't go as far as.
I know. Well, I don't see it that way because I just think I'm more. My angle that I was going to ask was, what happened here? How are they not able to get this done? Like they're re-signing a lot of people. People are getting big money. But what I'm saying is, he's been putting on awesome matches and has been more mage recently than he's ever been before. His fiance has been made to be one of the most prominent sort of featured characters on TV. Plus, he's having all these mage matches. I wonder what they weren't willing to offer him. I'm curious to where it fell apart.
I think to your question, P, what I'm guessing happened is what happened presumably with Mercedes Moné earlier this year, right? Is that he got an offer from AEW. He got an offer from WWE. WWE might not have been willing to match AEW's offer. And so, when you play that sort of game, you also have to be prepared to walk, because if you don't, then not only do
Well,
you
look,
lose
I mean,
that
no,
game this time, but you lose
I'm
it
sure he.
every other time after that.
Oh no, he was prepared to walk. Obviously,
Yeah,
I'm surprised they weren't willing to match. I wonder what AEW offered, how far out of the realm it was that WWE wouldn't match. Because I hear what Dip's saying, and you can look at it as like what didn't quite connect. But I
yeah.
view it as the last year he's kind of become a big star for them. Like
And that's what I was gonna ask Dip too. Is when you say what didn't connect, what do you, in terms of what? Right? Is it just that he didn't have a world championship? Because I don't think that's. I see a lot of fans sort of lamenting the fact that WWE never put a world title on him, and I don't think that's
That was never going
the
to happen.
end all be all of the whole situation. I don't think that's what makes him underutilized, right? Because to P's point, we've seen him do some amazing things. He's showcased on TV. He's super talented. We know that because they put him out there every Monday night to do these amazing, mind blowing things. He's had his share of title runs.
I think
So
I
it's
think what happened was he was always going to be a perpetual mid carder. I don't think that they ever saw him as anything other than a mid card person. Or I mean, they gave him a speed title. You know, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from that. I'm just saying he's not, his in-ring abilities and his sort of acrobatic move set and all of the amazing things that we saw him do did not equal main event status in someone's eyes. And I think if you're not going to reach for that brass ring, or they don't, they didn't see him as something that was ever going to be anything more than just fodder for someone else eventually, then that was that. I don't think his promo work was all that great.
no, that's not his
And
thing.
and I just feel like it would, it probably just wasn't going to ever amount to more than it did now. And so they said, look, we've given this guy years and years of runway, and maybe we got he's getting a bag of Rooney somewhere else. Let him, God bless L'chaim. So I don't know.
I mean, I don't know if I'd argue that they've given him that much runway. He got a few times when he got a spot a few times, but really the biggest thing he ever got was a one-on-one match with Logan Paul.
didn't he face Brock too at one point?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there a Ricochet Brock Lesnar? Yeah. So I mean,
But like he was,
I don't know. How much runway is it to face Brock? I mean, it's something.
he was
it
put
is
in there to
something.
lose to these people. Is my point.
Yeah,
that I
but
would make.
That's
not
fine though. That's not fatal. He lost. Okay, he
But
lost.
he was never put in a position to ever really beat anyone
grow.
of significance.
Yeah, like that I would say when did he get put in a position where what's Ricochet's most meaningful win in WWE?
That's a better question.
Characters do need to have meaningful wins. Even though we know it's not all about wins and losses, you got to win sometimes. Or what are we watching?
I mean, look, he was an
Unless you're
Intercontinental
John
Champion,
Cena,
right?
Unless you're John Cena in 2024, you got to win sometimes.
Right. Will we see John Cena win again is another question for another day. But
one more time, I bet.
He was Intercontinental Champion. I don't know who he beat, and then of course he lost to Gunther, who then goes on the reign, like the reign of reigns in
True.
terms of
Yeah, he did set up the reign. Listen, I'm happy for Ricochet. It is going to be a really good fit there. Obviously, everyone is stoked to see some Will Ospreay Ricochet. I mean, there's going to be some great matches for Ricochet. It's a great pickup. I loved MJF. I thought it was hilarious that someone posted like a diss, like a line that MJF would make to Ricochet. Do you see that?
I did.
Someone posted a thing kind of mocking a way that, doing a mock version of MJF talking ish to Ricochet, and MJF commented on it like noted.
He was bookmarked.
What was the line, SGG?
He said bookmarked. So he
did you see what the insult was?
I did. I'm going to pull it up right now for people who didn't see.
It was a funny, very MJF-ish way to talk to Ricochet. I just love that MJF is so aware of these spots and knows how to pop the internet by noting it.
He said, "Look, everyone, it's Ricochet. Ricochet, my bad. Sorry, bud, I'm bad with names. But I guess your wife's pretty good with them, huh? Well, after I beat your ass back to Boyle Heights, I'll have your wife screaming my name. And Sam, baby, I promise I can last longer than 3 minutes." He be bookmarked.
What a lunatic.
Yeah, some random lunatic who pretended to be MJF and but did a good job.
Yeah.
So yeah, this version of it's funny, it's interesting that we're in a time where the big signings potentially happening at AEW are still going on. I sort of kind of thought we'd run out and they weren't going to continue to throw money at a lot more WWE people, but I guess there are still people. And then again, I didn't know that All Ego Ethan Page would be in WWE. So
Right. That's what I was gonna say. On both sides, if somebody hits free, if somebody's unhappy, it's like, hey, we got grass over here too. Now, is the grass greener on their side? That's gonna be up for that person to go and find out. But I think both companies are willing to see whoever hits the market and take them and then sort of give them a different trajectory. As we see with Lexis King, right? Brian Pillman Jr. is now thriving in NXT.
The grass will be green in the immediate for Ricochet. In the long term, you don't know. That's the hard thing with AEW because they have so many people and people just end up fading away. But in the moment, as Dip so eloquently put it, he's going to get a bag of Rooney and he's going to show up and at least for a moment get treated like a really big deal. Yeah. And that matters. People, guess what? People want a moment in their career when they get treated like a big deal. But I don't know. I don't know if you're aware, Mercedes Moné liked the feeling of walking in and having everyone stop to watch. And I get it. That's a normal. Oh, by the way, and then they have this monstrous of a baggeroonie on top of it. Yeah, that's pretty good. So eventually they'll complain and want to leave, but it's fun in the meantime.
But that goes to your point, right? Because like everybody's gonna get their moment, but then what happens after the moment, and where are they on the card, and in terms of fans' eyes after that moment, right? Because then if he goes and he's not any higher than he was positioned in WWE, then you got to question, okay, sure, the bag was worth it, right? If we're talking millions of dollars, the bag is always worth it. But in terms of his career and like that satisfaction that he was looking for, was it worth it in that sense? Then I don't know. Because there's a lot of people
if you're Ricochet, the way you can look at it is worth it only because he already knows what's here. Like here's the thing: Ricochet could end up having a 5-star match with Will Ospreay at a major event, right? Like it could be at Wembley Stadium. We don't know where it could be. A massive moment that Ricochet gets to have in AEW that he knows was never going to happen in WWE. So even if the rest of it is a bunch of Michigas and he's backstage seeing people not know how to carry themselves and lunacy and things that may all be true. No one's ever questioning which organization is a tighter run ship. That's done. But Ricochet got to be a part of that really tight run ship. He knew exactly where he fit in. It's probably worth it, money and otherwise, to just see what is the random height you could get to here, even if it's just for a moment or a couple of moments. Yeah, I totally see why that's worthwhile while he's in the prime of his wrestling career.
But I just don't want him to end up like a I think about a Keith Lee, right? Who like, I remember when he signed, we were all in the same room together.
First of all, how dare you?
You never know though, right?
But he could never. Because like, all due respect to Keith Lee, Keith Lee's one thing. But talent-wise, Ricochet is something else. Ricochet could go to anywhere, and it's going to work on some level in the ring. I don't know, like,
but I don't want to say it's not just Keith Lee though, right? Like, there's Jay White. There's people who come in and get like,
again, all due respect. No, Jay White's legit. They're both legit. But Ricochet, man, I don't know, Dip, you think I'm speaking out of school? Ricochet is the kind of dude where if there's a working camera, Ricochet's gonna pop. Like,
yeah,
the man is out of this world.
Ricochet's gonna have
agree with you. That's just what will make it more disappointing to me though. Like, if he can't work it,
Ricochet's gonna have a great run in AEW, at least in the short term. There's no question. There's competitors for him left and right, and he's an incredible wrestler. I remember seeing him at Lucha Underground when I went as Prince Puma, and saying, this is one of the greatest living wrestlers on earth. And that was like when he was in his prime, younger days, maybe, this was almost 10 years ago, probably. And he was a star then. So, I don't know what happened with WWE. I think, again, he was probably going to, never reach the mountaintop. He, like Peter said, he knew where his place was there. And maybe the grass is greener for him. Maybe there's just bigger upside for him in AEW.
I love green grass, by the way.
Who doesn't?
Big fan. You don't want no one says
No.
I'm heading over there. The grass is browner on the other side. No one says that. They want the green grass. Barney green grass. All right, so that was the big outside the ring news, which took up quite a portion here for good reason. Biggest name we've seen sort of move around in quite a while. In terms of what happened on the television over the last week, SGG, or since Friday, I should say. What are the tweets and streets talking about?
Finn Balor, believe it or not, is dominating a lot of the conversation because once again we saw Liv Morgan. I'm gonna say seduce. She tried to seduce Dom.
Oh boy!
Last night, she gave him her hotel room key.
Oh, I saw it.
Which then went missing.
I love when I love when Carlito saw it and he was like, she gave me a room key. And Carlito's like, that's cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. They're like, no, it's not cool. He's like, oh.
Finn says, no, it's not cool. But Finn also pocketed the key. I don't know if people saw that in real time, but WWE
doesn't mean anything.
Released some video. Listen, we'll see. But WWE released some video. They show all the members of Judgment Day sort of making a pact that they're not gonna entertain Liv Morgan at all. And while one hand is sort of in the middle, fist bumping with his bros, the other hand reaches down on the table, takes the key, and he pockets it. So I don't know what that's going to mean, but somehow that has now dominated the conversation. And this is over AJ Styles. This is over Chad Gable and Alpha Academy. Finn Balor is a smooth boy, man. I tell you.
The Ferginator.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, people love a sexy storyline, man. They do. Yeah. And this is what we're getting, and it's been a really long time since we had anything like this. And I think people are just sort of spellbound by the idea of a relationship storyline going on in WWE. So,
and God, Liv just got so much more interesting overnight, man. Like,
yeah.
We've seen this 1,000 times from 1,000 superstars. Most superstars just get more interesting when they're not white meat baby faces. It's no different than the conversation we're having about Cody Rhodes right now. Liv had been this lovable baby face for so long. And guys, I always found it to be really limiting with her. She has another thing working against her in addition to what every other white meat baby face has to deal with. And that is, she's also very diminutive in size. So like she's this very tiny, unintimidating on sight good guy. How long can you keep? And she already had her big underdog moment. Like we had it. She had the underdog moment. She made it to the top as this great underdog. What do you do now to stay on top and stay interesting? I think the only thing to do is add a new wrinkle to that personality, and now she's a conniving, cheating, not so great guy. And I care again. She's
Isn't it funny?
One of the great seducers we've seen in some time, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Probably,
I mean,
she's seducing and seducing.
In recent memory, she ranks, pretty high at the top. I would have said Rhea Ripley, but I feel like Liv Morgan said she's coming to take everything, and she took that title too.
And they're setting up a legitimate blood feud between Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan when Rhea comes back. It's kind of brilliant, long-term.
And they're doing a really nice job of the whole Dom resisting thing. When they eventually really do have the kiss, because the first one wasn't the kiss. The first one was he didn't want it. when he eventually says, "Screw it, I'm done with Rhea," and they have like the hardcore makeout, people are gonna lose it. It's gonna be like you get all these different things. You keep getting different steps as this progresses.
This is wrestling. Now we're having a conversation.
Yep.
And you mentioned Liv becoming more interesting, but I think it's sort of cool how much more interesting Dom has become because of this also. And like he barely has to wrestle. He gets to pick up the mic and still be a heat magnet. He gets to do his backstage segments. And don't get me wrong, he's super talented, but he doesn't have to be in the ring when the bell rings, which makes it all the more better to be Dom Mysterio right now, not just having Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley fighting over you, but the physicality that comes with pro wrestling, you don't even really have to entertain or lean into. You get to just be Dom.
Yeah, it's not a bad gig this kid's carved out for himself. This Dominik Mysterio. What else, SGG?
Like I said, the Chad Gable has his championship opportunity against Sami Zayn at Clash of the Castle, and Otis still seems conflicted. I mean, he ripped off his Alpha Academy shirt, but once again on Monday he didn't put his hands on Chad Gable, but it was Sami Zayn who caught his wrath. Do we think Otis is gonna finally turn on Chad Gable, or is Alpha Academy gonna come out stronger on the other side of this?
That's clearly what we're headed towards. We're headed towards an Otis Chad Gable feud. Otis finally turning the babyface back to babyface again in a major way, and it's going to be a fun mid card culmination.
You know what we haven't done in a long time here on this program? Get ready.
Mail.
It's been years, I feel.
Potential.
I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I feel like it's been ages.
What do we got?
We have two different email addresses right now. First of all, so there's still some people who are writing to the Rosenberg Beats, and then there's a few people who have written to the Rosenberg Wrestling.
Yeah, I was gonna say the people that actually listen are writing to Rosenberg Wrestling.
Not really, though. No, more people are staying with Beats.
They said we're not learning another new email address. We're doing Rosenberg Beats.
Randy wrote us and said, "Hey guys, I have to say thank you to Peter for something he said during the Brian Gewirtz interview last week. During the conversation, you mentioned that you're low on time, but need to catch up on wrestling. You'll watch the promo segments and fast forward through the matches. I was so glad to hear you say that, as I've gotten very busy as of late because I'm also #WithALife, and I've been doing the same thing for quite a while. I just don't have the time to sit down and watch 7+ hours every week across WWE and AEW. While I love the actual wrestling and think it's great, the stories have always been the core of what I love most about wrestling. Thanks for sharing this, Peter, and confirming that I'm not the only one who does this same age." Listen, I don't think it's a profound thought, but I think if you're limited on time and you want to know what's happening with your show, you can essentially just see the result of the wrestling match, and that tells you enough.
Yeah,
of course.
And
usually we know who's winning these matches too.
Yeah, because it's so much more about the story for me too, with where I'm at with my wrestling content consumption. So it's like the great matches are everywhere. No, it's true. It is what I used to say. The great matches are everywhere, but it's so much more about the story, and I've been consistent about that.
I don't know about that. You're usually obsessed with who has the championship and how many times they've had the championship, and
that's part of the story, Dip. I hate to tell you this, but that prop that gets passed around and who's the king and who has the crown is part of the story.
Yeah, it may not be the part that you like, but that is the storytelling. That's not the really about the matches. That's more part of the story. I tend to agree with SUG.
Okay.
You just don't consider it part of the story.
I just feel like I don't know. I guess Roman again made the championship feel like something, and but before that, I was pretty convinced that it meant almost nothing. So, and in AEW, with 10,000 belts, I think, the only belt that matters is the world title. So, I've always had trouble with the belts not meaning enough. So,
Well, there are belt problems in wrestling. There are some belt problems in wrestling.
The wrestling has belt
There's
issues.
a lot of belts. There's a lot of belts.
I will say though, we had the big NXT over the weekend, and they crowned their first NXT North American Women's Champion.
That is a belt that was needed, though. I will say.
I do. My only problem with it is that I wish there was a mid-card belt for women in the big times on Raw or SmackDown.
Yeah, I agree.
It is sort of interesting that they started it on NXT.
But NXT's women roster, I know the women's roster on the main roster is deep also, but NXT's women's roster is huge, and it feels like everybody's just so talented down there. So they for sure needed it.
I respect the NXT women's division so much that I've already decided that if I ever have a daughter, I am naming them Isla on principle. They have to be named Isla. You have to be named Isla. I don't know if you watch NXT, it's like the name. It's Mary. It's the Mary of NXT. Is Isla. By the way, what a groundbreaking performance by Sexy Red. Really, she really brought it in that intro. Am I right?
Yes, it was very perfect. I had the chills. It was like an Aretha Franklin Mania performance to me.
Was that Mania 3, right?
Yeah. It was one of the, how she was like, yeah, it's time to get sexy up in this muff or whatever she said. It was similar to me. It was like one of those 10 bell salutes that you just like one tear just welled up in my eye.
You saw me.
And
I was hysterical crying.
Yeah. As she dropped down to twerk for the first time, the tear in my eye timed with the twerk and just dropped right down my face. One of the great moments of all time that we've ever seen.
I got up and twerked myself. Just to mimic.
Did you see Shawn Michaels on the timeline twerking?
I did, SGG. And listen, I think there's only one thing to be said when things like this happen. If you look at social media, there's only one thing to say. It was amazing. I mean, it was just, could it have been any better? It was.
What do you think Shawn Michaels' reaction? Who called Shawn Michaels and said, "Listen, Shawn Michaels, we're going to have a special guest on the NXT show. It's Sexy Red." And what do you think he said? What was his reaction? Peter?
I think they probably followed it up. He said, No, who's that? I don't do a Shawn Michaels. And then they said, do you remember the lady who posted singing your song in the car,
right,
while smoking a fat blunt? And he went, well, and then that was it. Now, I will say this. I didn't say this.
Okay.
But my wife did say this. when she saw the Sexy Red intro, which was, I think, about 3.5 seconds long, and then twerking. She said, if that's what it was going to be, why didn't they just put her in the front row? Like, did we need that? Could it have just been, you're a fan, and they show you on camera, and it says Sexy Red?
We needed it. I needed what I saw.
I needed
the intro in the ring, the whole thing. It was.
Is this now?
And they couldn't promote that. They couldn't promote her sitting in the front row, right? Because they do the front row thing. They do the whole. Oh, look!
Well, no. Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could. Because instead of making a complete mockery of the idea of hosting an event, because like I've hosted a lot of events before, and some of which I admit it was like taking money. I'm like, this is an easy gig. It's never been 4 seconds. I've never done a 4-second hosting in my life. But they could have said, she could have said in her first appearance, which I think also I just saw the Primetime Emmy nominations. She was nominated Best Supporting. I get it sexy. That's right. She could have said, and you know what? I'll be back to watch in person when this title's on the line. And then they still could have promoted Sexy Red is gonna be at, I mean, they could have done it at Battleground. They could have. And then I would have had her to get involved with a match. Like I'd have her do something from the front row. Like I'd involve her in a physical thing. I guess more so. What I'm saying is I don't know that the mic work was all the way there. Maybe we could have just done something. When you think about the things that Dip has criticized mic-wise on this show, we got into a heated debate about how far along Rhea Ripley has come on the mic. Think about the level at which we were talking relative to what the hosting was at Battleground. That's all I'm saying. Let's hold everyone to the same, similar standard. That's all I'm saying. But there were some great matches on the Battleground card. I don't know if you took it in there, SUG.
Yeah, I took in some of it. I saw the Honeys in the Bank ladder match, as Kaz is calling it. I saw the Oba Femi's performance. I didn't make it quite to the main event yet, but it was a strong card, just top to bottom. I want to get back and watch the whole thing. I just got to see those 2 matches though.
Yeah, and they made the Apex work. It wasn't perfect. There's a lot of there are some dead spots in the Apex, the way it's laid out for UFC. But I thought overall it kind of felt similar to what you're used to getting from an NXT show.
What I saw online too, in terms of the Apex, was that WWE made it look better than UFC has ever made it look. And is that your interpret?
Yeah, it certainly wasn't the best WWE can do, but it was way better than UFC has done. How about that? Yeah, they made it look a lot more lively for sure. No, it was a solid event, and I do love that they've added the North American title for women. I think those mid-card titles matter, and it's a good move.
Male.
Let's see. Johnny writes us and said, been listening since the Shoemaker years, still have the OG black shirt, and my wife has the white one. Wow, great guys.
Oh, wow.
I appreciate all of the years of podcasts and talk about normal day-to-day life, whether it's bagels or turbulence or marriage or vacations. I was in NYC this past weekend for a concert and some Broadway. I was hoping for a random Rosenberg run-in. Any chance you'd be able to offer a yearly membership for Patreon as well? I'm not looking for a discount. I just hate monthly charges. Even for streaming, I always choose the annual option and pay for a full year up front. Also, minor Otis-like error. It's the show description. In the show description, it says Patreon instead of Patreon. Thanks, Johnny from New Hampshire and soon to be Florida. Johnny, I will look into right away how we could go about doing a year-long. I don't see why not.
That's a good idea.
I appreciate your paranoia that you just don't like having a monthly charge. I appreciate that.
I'm with him though. Just take it now, and I don't want to think about it. Just don't bother me. I just want to enjoy the content. You know what I mean?
Let me tell you something about my turbulence on the flight here.
Well,
it was the first time in years that I did not sit in a window. I sat. It was one of the big. It was 3 seats, then 2, then 3, and
you
I
sat in
sat.
an aisle.
Yeah.
Huh?
You already told us, dude.
I did. Okay. Sorry.
On Friday's show. Oh no, you know what? I think it was on Patreon though. So if you want to share this with, people had to pay. They had to pay their hard-earned money to hear that you sat in the aisle. So if you want to make that available for free, I think they deserve it as well. So you sat on the aisle.
The other thing I wanted to, anyway, it was not as bad as it was by the window. Okay. What I wanted to say is I want to know what determines whether when you order the ginger ale, sometimes they give you the full can, and sometimes they give you just the cup with ice, and they pour some ginger ale into it, and they give you the cup. I want to know what is the defining line there. That's a big question I always have.
I feel like When I'm in sort of the cheap seats, I get the cup. And then when I'm pony up a little bit more, I get the can.
No,
Yeah,
nothing to do with where you're sitting, the class or whatever. I think it's the airline or maybe the
Okay.
length of the flight. I don't know, but it's very puzzling to me. And
where were your seats? Where were your seats? I'll tell you if they were can worthy.
They're coachy. They're coachy seats.
Yeah, no, yeah, they weren't can worthy.
Oh, I've gotten plenty of cans in coach.
What?
Oh, I've gotten plenty of cans in coach. Absolutely.
I'm writing my congressman then. I've just been
I spent a lifetime in coach, and I got cans plenty of times. You never got a can when you were sitting in coach?
I feel like I did, but not in these days when it's like, they get more stingy as times have gone on. They've cut back on the amenities as time has gone on. So I don't think in 2024 you get a can in coach.
I got to tell you, I don't even want the can because then you have two things to figure out where to put them.
I know.
Can't, and then they only come around once in a while to get rid of the garbage. I think they come around too quickly. So I'm sitting there. I've had a couple of sips of the ginger ale. I see the airline attendant coming down 40 seconds later to pick up the trash. Now I'm guzzling. I'm guzzling the ginger ale to try to get rid of it because I feel bad.
Because you want to just get your table up and get the garbage the hell out of here.
I want the table up. I don't know. Sometimes I'm crinkling up the cup and putting it in the thing to make sure. But
sure, of course you're doing that. No, and the move is you finish the drink in the cup, and then you stick the can in the cup, and then you stick the can and the cup in the thing in the seat in front of you.
I know, but then it's like protruding out.
I hate protruding.
There's still ice in there. There's still ice. It's a nightmare. It really is a nightmare. Honestly.
No, listen. The truth is, living this way is horrifying that we do this. Don, my co-host on the K show, Don LaGreca, was talking about how he just when he does Rangers games, if it works out well, he gets to travel with the team if the timing works, and he flies on the charter. And he explained it in a way I never thought of it yesterday. Keep in mind, Don is the ultimate everyman. Don would never pay for first class in his regular life, not even a consideration. Okay, he gets it when he gets it for work and when he gets to fly the charter with the Rangers.
I'm the same way.
He said when you fly charter, aka private, it removes all of these horrible things that we take, like that you don't even think about. Like the fact that when you go, for example, when you go to the airport and you're immediately taking off shoes and belts as if you're going to jail. It's basically the experience of going to prison.
Well, not if I don't take off shoes and belts.
You're getting, but people are, you never have a time, even when you have,
if you have pre-check, I guess you don't need to, but
even when you have pre-check, though, you have the day where you get to the pre-check line and they're like, oh, sorry. It happens. It happens. And you're taking out your electronics. You have to laptop out here, shoes here, belt there. All of these reminders that death could be around the corner. Then you get on the plane and the speeches begin, right? The endless warnings begin. Then, God forbid, you have something plugged in, or you want to lean your seat back, or act like a civilized human being for 5 seconds.
And they tell you when you can get up.
You can't get up. You can't get up. You got to, don't do that. No, you can't lean back. Nope, tray table up. All of these things that make you feel like your moments from the whole thing coming unraveled. I've never flown private. I've never been on a charter flight in my life.
I have.
None of it's there. They don't do anything.
No, I know.
They give you the bare minimum speech. You can lean back when you want. You can walk when you want. It's a whole. You're not going through the security. Everything's gone.
Yeah, there's no. When you fly private, there's nothing. You just get on the plane.
Do you realize how big a deal? Like, you have to understand. For me, I've never done it. So, and I think most people.
Never flown private once.
Never, not once, for 1 second.
Greg,
I don't even know how.
Never.
In what context did you fly private?
For work, I've flown private.
Right, there was a very rich person had a thing, and you were among the people who got to be like, "Hey, you're coming to the thing," and you get to go to the thing.
There's a different circumstance, but it was a very small private jet.
Got it. So,
That's why he's scared of turbulence. Well, you know that story. I ever tell you that? I mean, that was literally that was the worst experience of my life. I was hysterical. It was
Wait,
beyond.
so what?
It's a
So you
small
got to fly
plane
private,
across
but it
the
was the
country.
worst experience of all
I
time.
got to fly private with a bunch of my colleagues on a private jet, and we took off from it was Burbank to Teterboro,
Okay.
and we flew in. It was like a 10-seater, a 12-seater, small plane, nice, like a modern plane, small plane, and we got up there, and it was immediately bumpy from the moment we start, and then we flew to the last 40 minutes of the flight into Teterboro. It was beyond your imagination of turbulence. The plane was dropping and tumbling and this and that.
I don't mean to laugh.
It was
I know
bed.
it's perfect.
It was bed, bath, and beyond. Okay, I was hysterical. I mean, it was bad, dude. We finally land, and the pilot comes out and goes, "Well, that wasn't easy." And I was like, "Swear to God." And I was like, that was the worst experience of my life. I'll never fly private again. It was horrible. It was
Okay.
horrible.
Well, remove Dip's experience.
But there was a nice charcuterie board and a fruit plate. And,
right. And at the beginning, and at the beginning, though, before the nightmare began, the fact that when you fly private, you get to skip all of these things. I mean, it's
there's
just
like a lounge before you even get on the plane.
And then there's
no
security. There's no security. You just walk onto the flight.
I know. Yeah, of course.
It's made. No, but you realize that people don't know because us regulars, we all go to the airport, and for us, the flying experience is like going to jail at Jace. It's one annoying thing after.
Let me ask you this: how many times have you hit the button for the attendant to come over? How many times have you hit that button in your life?
Never.
Not many times. I have, but not many times.
Yeah, I have not many times as well. There have been times where I've had nowhere to put the garbage, and I have to hit. I'm holding it for an hour and a half, and it doesn't.
And
fit
you go, enough. I'm pushing the button.
The hell they call it. And I have to call and say, listen, I can't hold this anymore. Please take this from me.
He said, I've had enough.
Yeah.
I've had recently a couple. I don't listen. I'm not going to lie, guys. I don't listen to the phone rules very much. I'm texting until someone yells at me. I'll be sitting there quietly having a phone call while they're doing the things, and then the people come up and they're very angry at me.
Some of them are angry. Some of them are not angry.
Some of them know that the whole thing's made up, that it's a complete gimmick. It's a rib. The whole industry's a rib. Honestly.
Yeah. Sometimes
the airline industry is a rib.
They don't want too much chatter on the plane. They just want to get where they're going, and they don't want to have to.
Sometimes they're obsessed with the seatbelt buckling, and sometimes they don't even come and look. Sometimes they do a fake look.
Oh no! Sometimes they will literally. This is so wrong. Someone will have like a jacket or a sweatshirt, and they'll wake them up to go look for their seatbelts.
I know.
And I'm like, you piece of shit. I'm sorry. That is disgusting. There are some people who really struggle to sleep, and they're so happy that they caught, like, oh my God, yes, I fell asleep. I'm going to sleep through the whole flight. And then Doris has to come over and go, where's your seatbelt? You don't care about my safety, Doris. Go scratch.
Federal T-Rex? Do they have
the other new, we leave it at this. The other new completely ridiculous, dumb thing with traveling is now the security line with the bin conveyor belt. At least I have this at JFK. You have to put things in the bin conveyor belt. And it's up to the TSA guy behind there to replenish the bin. And he moves there, or she moves them along. So if your thing in the bin gets caught behind a bunch of these things, you're waiting forever on the other side. Plus, it's impossible. They're always getting jumbled up. What's the problem with putting it on the metal and having it go through the thing? Why does it have to be on a bin conveyor belt? By the way, it's making everything slower. It's a preposterous thing that they're doing.
But they're doing it. I'm guessing it started because They run out of bins. This way, they won't run out of bins.
No bin. I don't even what if you have something that requires a bin, take it from the stack of bins. I'm talking about the big bin thing.
I know the big bin thing. I've seen the big bin thing.
It's crazy, the big bin thing. Wild concept.
Well, and then you have to put your suitcase in the bin.
Yes. What? Who invented the big bin?
Yeah, the suitcase in the bin is ridiculous.
Who spent
guys,
to install the big bin concept.
Again, guys, this entire thing is a rib. They hate us. I swear to you, I think that Osama bin Laden was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but my number one goal is I don't want these people to travel in peace ever again.
Do you remember the experience of flying before 9/11?
Honestly, not really. Not really. I've been that warped. I every time.
It was that much different. It wasn't.
Oh, no, it really was. It was
much different. It was definitely.
You didn't need a boarding pass to go through security. You could just go and like meet your people right at the gate.
That I remember.
The security thing was just like a metal detector that was just like, all right, you're good.
Right, that's true.
Yeah, security was a quick thing. You get to keep
your shoes on. You get to take toothpaste through the thing. Lotions.
You could bring your deodorant, a drink. I mean, it's insane. The one thing I know, this is so basic at this point. We're 20 years into this. I get it, but the idea that I can't bring a can of soda with me, but I can go, hold on, take my lighter. I'll grab it on the other side. No problem. Can of Coke? Absolutely not. We know that could be one of those famous Coke bombs.
Yeah.
We're not letting you get through with the Coke bomb.
Unbelievable.
Well, they won't let you get through for the
big bin is the problem.
Oh, please, the big bin is the problem. The big bin is the latest problem in 20 years of problems.
It's the latest problem.
The big bin isn't the problem. The fact that this bin thing has been a thing for a long time. The taking out the laptop is a thing. For me, the unloading of my electronic equipment, sometimes, I'm like a goddamn Radio Shack when I travel. Do you know how annoying that is? Why do I do pre-check if every time I go through it, you have to take out all of my radio equipment and look at my microphones? I'm seeing they're staring at the cord. They're holding up the recorder. What could this be?
And they don't pack it back right. Like, that's the thing that pisses me off the most.
Not.
It's like, you see how I had this so organized, and then now I have to do it again on the other side.
If, God forbid, you make the mistake of buying a lotion or a cologne or something that's a few ounces too big, and you have that moment where they're like, we just got to throw it out. Or you could go recheck it if you want, and you're staring them in the face going, I can't believe you're going to make me throw away this brand new friggin' deodorant.
Or the worst is when they're like, I had someone be like, oh, I'll mail it to you. I'm like, just fuck. No.
No, leave me alone. And by the way, I walk up the plane, my iPad's there. I call them. Can I get my iPad back? No, it's gone. Like, everything. It is jail. It is jail. And for this reason, this is why when I go to see Gervonta Davis fight this week, this is now why the company has to send me mint, because I will not play your jail game. I'll play your jail games, but I'm at least getting an ice cream sundae at the end. All right, let's
speaking of this weekend, Clash at the Castle is this weekend. In addition,
it's already this weekend.
Yeah, Clash at the Castle is this weekend. 5 matches on the card.
What do we have, SGG?
Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill defending their tag team championships in a triple threat match against Dawn of Fire, Alba Fire, and Isla Dawn.
Isla.
That's right. And Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark, who choked out Dawn of Fire on Monday to sort of assert some dominance ahead of this tag match. Well, we'll see how that works out for them. There's Piper Niven challenging Bayley for the Women's Championship, the WWE Women's Championship. There's Chad Gable versus Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship. Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship. And Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles in an I Quit match for the undisputed WWE Championship. And my question for you, gentlemen, there's a lot of representation on this card in terms of people from Scotland. You have Drew McIntyre, Piper Niven, Dawn of Fire. Are any of them going to become champion in front of their hometown, home country crowd, or is Scotland just going to get stomped out? by the reigning defending champions at Clash at the Castle?
That's a very good question. And one we'll dive into more depth in on the Patreon episode on Friday when we break down the full card. I don't think any of them win. Maybe Drew McIntyre, but I don't think any of them win. SGG.
I feel the same way. I feel the same way. I don't think any of them are gonna. I think if we get a title changing hands, it's gonna be Chad Gable, and I think the Scottish people are gonna love it, but not as
Or
much.
maybe somehow Bianca and Jade get like cheated and Dawn of Fire end up winning.
Maybe
Is that a world of it? Do we see the first like crack in the relationship of Bianca and Jade in some way? It seems early to me still, but maybe that's what it is. Either way, we will break this all down to a fine powder on the Patreon episode. I may have some special guests too, guys, because I'm going to be in Las Vegas. So we'll see who I run into for fight week with the Gervonta Davis fight coming up this weekend.
yeah, man.
Man. Maybe it's Booker T. Rosenberg Wrestling at gmail.com. And we will see you guys for a double Patreon whammy this week, the Saturday Night's Main Event episode plus the Clash at the Castle preview. Stay mage, everyone.